So, one night, I was out drinking with some buddies, and my hobby came up later in the night. The place we were at was starting to die down, so they asked me if there was anything cool nearby we could go to. First place that popped in my head was an old abandoned factory that was in the woods, probably a 5 to 10 minute drive away. So we went. Now, I didn't quite remember the path to get there. You have to leave the trail at some point. There was a cloud cover so visibly was super low, and one of them was pretty unathletic thanks to diabetes. So I had them stay on the trail while I fumbled around in the dark to make sure we were going in the right direction. When I finally got back, they asked how far I went cause they thought they heard someone walk by the parallel of the trail. I shook it off and dismissed it as a stray dog or something, and led them to the woods where we hit the fence. I then started leading them along the fence to the hole someone cut forever ago, and when we were getting close, I heard footsteps that weren't ours, maybe 15 feet to the right of us, and I stopped dead in my tracks. At that moment, my entire body was screaming at me to run, and the only thing that went through my head in the moment was, those were humans. I turned back to my friends and judged by their faces, they heard it too. I told my friends we should skip this for tonight and head back. They quickly agreed and started back to the trail as I stayed behind to make sure whoever it was didn't follow behind us. As I waited for them to get further away, I didn't hear or see anything move. And once I assumed they were back at the trail, I took off running after them, and we quickly made it back to the car. Since then, I chucked it up to being some homeless dude going to the same place to crash for the night. But it felt like they were following us, and for whatever reason, they triggered my fight or flight super hard. I checked into this hotel room with my family Friday night. It's now very, very early on Sunday. A dream had woken me up, and since I can't go back to sleep, here I am. I'll start off by saying I'm not generally plagued by nightmares, and I definitely don't have auditory hallucinations. Last night, as well as tonight, laying down to go to sleep, I've been hearing whispers. Thought I was just tired, but now that I think about it, it's something more. Yesterday, my mom said I was crying out in my sleep. I was having nightmares that night. About half an hour ago, I woke up sobbing, soaked in my own tears. I had witnessed my daughter's death and attended her funeral in extreme detail. For reference, I do have a daughter. She's 1.5 and asleep next to me. In my dream, she was hurt by a bomb of some sort that hurt others, but she was first impacted. And if that wasn't heartbreaking enough, at her funeral, she was walking around like normal. The funeral itself was weird as there wasn't many people, and I know for a fact that a lot would come to my daughter's. She was holding the hand of someone, but when she noticed me, she smiled and ran over. I picked her up and smelt the top of her head as I often do in real life. I was heartbroken to realize she now smelled like embalming fluid, so I took a picture with her to capture one last memory. When I looked at it, I realized I was sitting alone. All that combined really solidified that she was really gone. It's hard to describe the feeling of hopelessness and despair and gut-wrenching profound sadness that are still lingering. Just want to say, I'm so sorry if you ever lost a child. I can't imagine your pain. I texted my friend about it, and she definitely believes it's haunted. That thought never crossed my mind until she mentioned it. I was a pretty and relatively smart 15-year-old girl, a good kid who did well in school despite a tough childhood. I was working at an amusement park full-time during the summer. The area I lived in could be sketchy, but having grown up with little to no adult supervision, I was used to trying to look out for myself. My father was out of town, my mother was long out of the picture, and my sister, 3 years older, and myself were staying at our home alone. I finished work at 11 p.m. when the park closed and walked home by myself as I usually did. It wasn't far, perhaps 10 minutes. I arrived home. My sister was still out somewhere, so I get ready for bed, putting on my pajamas and crawled into bed. I was starting to fall asleep, but heard a small noise. I didn't know what it was, but it didn't seem like a usual house noise. My bedroom was on the second floor, with stairs leading up. I didn't hear anything after that noise, didn't investigate, just chalked it up to nothing. I started to fall back asleep when I heard what sounded like hesitant footsteps on the stairs. I was instantly awoke, but in my mind it was my sister coming home and climbing up the stairs where her bedroom was. Still in bed, I yelled out, "Wendy? Wendy, is that you?" I heard nothing back. I yelled again, "Wendy, is that you?" Nothing. More footsteps. I was petrified, but as I tell the story to this day, I don't understand some of my reactions that night, so really can't explain them. I got out of bed, opened the ajar bedroom door fully, and went out to the stairs, where I stood at the top. Below me, about halfway up, was a man I had never seen before. He looked to be in his early 20s, a little taller than my 5'7". Not a big guy, but solid with blonde curly hair. I asked him what he was doing. His reply was a garbled mess along the lines of, "Where's Wendy? My mother told me not to get mixed up with women. Where's Wendy?" From his manner and wild-eyed look, he seemed like he may have been onto something. He had followed me home from the park and was asking where's Wendy in response to my calling out for her. For some reason, I got very angry, not just scared, and started screaming at him to get out of the house, that I was going to call my father and Wendy, and he needed to get out. To my surprise, he did. He turned around, ran back down the stairs, and I didn't see where he went after that, but it turns out he must have left. I have no idea how he got in, but he was definitely there for me. That's why he followed me. Not burglary or anything. He was trying to do something to me. I think the only reason he left was because he had no idea where my sister Wendy was, thought she was in the house, and it was an added complication to him getting caught. I was so shaken. I stayed up for the rest of the night. I didn't call the cops. I didn't call a friend. The only person I told was my sister the next day. I don't know why. I just sat in a rocking chair, clutching my cat, and rocking, and crying, staying awake until the next morning. My sister didn't come home that night. She stayed at a friend's house and came home the next day. This happened 35 years ago. I never told anyone until now.